So again, our Western Cape Premier Alan Winde says he's prepared to give an account on how he reached the decision to fire former Community Safety MEC Albert Fritz, but in court. The Premier yesterday fired Mr. Fritz from the provincial cabinet with immediate effect. This followed a probe into claims of sexual misconduct levelled against the former MEC. Fritz has since stepped down as the DA's provincial leader. Following this story for us today is reporter Ronald Masinda, joining us now live from our Cape Town studios. Good afternoon, Ronald. Thank you very much for your time. So, Mr. Winde is defending his decision to conduct an independent investigation into the Albert Fritz matter. What do we know now about this report?
Well, good afternoon, Bradan. Well, it is a scathing 81-page report detailing some of the alleged sexual misconduct levelled against Albert Fritz. What we heard from Alan Winde is that this report or the allegations started back in February 2018. That is one from the complainants. And we also heard from Alan Winde that, he refuses to back down from his own decision in going ahead with an independent investigation, saying that, people who came forward, the complainants, were petrified to take the matter to the police and that they felt a lot more comfortable in going through the processes that the Premier instituted. We also heard from Albert Fritz himself earlier on in a text message saying that, he won't do any interviews at this stage, but he will go on a full review on this report at the High Court. So it is unlikely that this will end anytime soon, Bradan. But one of the concerns for Alan Winde is that although members of the provincial legislature have been calling for this report to be made public, he says that his main priority is to protect those who have come to him to complain about Albert Fritz's alleged behavior. Let's take a listen to what the Premier had to say earlier.
So I want to say on the outset, I think everyone in this committee will agree with me. Everyone in our province will agree with me, and everyone in our country will agree with me. Gender-based violence is a big issue in our country. It's a really big issue. If I've learned one thing in the last few weeks, abused women are petrified of coming forward. If someone sitting in this government, in a business somewhere in society is busy watching this online saying, I'm being abused in this environment, and Parliament wants all the salacious detail, I'm never going to come forward. You must be crazy. Just having to make that decision knowing that there's going to be this hectic court case at some stage where lawyers are going to cross-question you and are going to, the other side is going to accuse you of all sorts of things. I have learned that it is not easy to come forward at all. And I'm just speaking in general now. When people want to know who did what to when, how, and what were the circumstances, because we want that salacious detail of this report, I want to ask why. Because I will say right now that in the role that I play and what I have witnessed and what I've listened to, I will defend the victims to the absolute end.
Well, Mr. Winde, they're being very clear there, Ronald. And what's the status, from what we know, of the investigation of the 4 other officials?
Yes, so we also heard from the Director General of Community Safety, and he says that investigations are still ongoing into the involvement of the 4 members who are under precautionary suspension, but details are very sketchy at the moment as to what role did they play. But we also heard from Alan Winde earlier also saying that just in terms of the allegations levelled against Albert Fritz, some of them very, very serious. So we're not sure as to what role these 4 individuals played who were part of Albert Fritz's team. But what we also heard earlier, and this is something that will continue to be probed, is to, the involvement. We heard that perhaps they were involved in grooming young women in through the Department of Community Safety, and they went out on tours and trips outside of the Western Cape where they enjoy themselves. There was reference made about WhatsApp messages and even pictures taken, people having alcohol as well in these trips, officials that are. And the questions were that, what money was government money, provincial government money used for these trips. So we are sooner to hearing more details about the involvement of these 4 individuals, but we are expecting a report to come out very soon, quite possibly even next week, Pradan. But we heard from the Director General himself. This is what he had to say.
On the officials that's been suspended, precautionally, those officials remain suspended. Those allegations are currently being investigated. I can also report that investigation is an advanced stage. Chair, obviously, you can realize that, it's not something that is just static. There are many witnesses obviously coming forward, providing evidence, etc., and all of these must be investigated. Also, given due process, allow also, those that are implicated to also respond, to some of these matters. So I can report here, Chair, it's ongoing. It's 4 officials that's been placed on precautionary suspension within the Department of Community Safety. My team, Employee Relations, is running with the investigations. We do it in terms of the Western Cape government policy, because these officials, although they work in a ministry or in the department, they are employed in terms of the Public Service Act. And once that investigation is completed, obviously we will go through all the different processes, and in fact the plan is actually to deal with that swiftly during this month still.
You're watching eNCA on DSTV channel 403.